Let's go! This is the media circus with your host Taiisha Bradley. Got virtual and live events to browse, pitch, and repeat so gladly. She got that online subscription for publicity leads. One thing that's safe to say is she got what you need. As seen in Forms of Journey and in shout out HEL. The media circus, grooving and we doing well. We want you to do better, that's why we here. Show you how to browse, pitch, repeat, let's get it clear.
Welcome back to the main attraction. I'm your ringleader and host, Taiisha Bradley, celebrity publicist. Are you ready to learn how to pitch your story to the media like a pro? Well, hold on to your AirPods and get ready to meet the one and only Denise Hendricks, who'll be joining us today on the podcast. This is episode 1 of season 2. Denise is no stranger to the media landscape with a rich background as an executive producer at MSNBC, senior producer at CNN Headline News, managing the iconic HLN Morning Express with Robin Mead Show. She produced segments for the Revolution talk show under Disney ABC Television Group's banner and spearheaded the launch of the award-winning The Monique Show on BET. But that's not all. Denise's journey in media stretches back even further with stints at CNN and Harpo Productions as associate producer, field producer of The Oprah Winfrey Show. So open up your notes app or your favorite notebook planner. Get ready to take notes as we spill strategies, tips, and insider information that you need to get seen on TV. So let's jump right in and welcome Denise Hendricks to the greatest podcast on earth. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Taiisha. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much. So listen, phenomenal background. Did I get everything correct? Do we need to fix anything? All right. And there's so much more, that I could just go on and on and on. So thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. It took not one, but 2 pitches to get you on the show. So I so appreciate you making the time to come on the podcast and, teach us all about TV, news, those backgrounds. So let's start from the beginning. So currently you are executive producer at MSNBC. Could you please explain to the audience what your role is like, what an executive producer does?
Sure. So an executive producer basically is in charge of a particular show on a network. So they're in charge of guiding the writers, the producers, the graphics, PAs, production assistants, everybody on the team to make sure the show and the host, that show is done from top to bottom, is executed. That basically is the job of the executive producer. So, if you want to make an analogy, your podcast, The Media Circus, we're kind of like the ringleader. We're kind of like a circus ringleader where we're, wrangling all the players of the circus and making sure everybody is doing their part to put on a spectacular broadcast for our viewing audience.
Nice. Thank you so much for that rundown of executive producer. We know that in TV, there are lots of different titles and lots of different kind of producer titles. So that is one of the ones where we try to learn the most about, which producers do what in television. So you have been with MSNBC for going on a little over almost 3 years, correct?
Almost 3 years. Exactly.
Yes, fantastic. And so prior to coming to MSNBC, you were senior producer for the HLN Morning Express with Robin Mead Show. Yes. As a part of CNN Headline News. That was in Atlanta. Can you tell us about your role as a senior producer?
Yes. So I was a senior producer on the HLN Morning Express with Robin Mead Show for 9 years. And I had a lot of different roles over the years on the show. I did some field producing on the show in the beginning where I'm actually traveling to different cities, doing stories with different reporters and hosts. I got a chance to, cover the Super Bowl a few times, cover the second inauguration of President Barack Obama with our host, Robin Mead, in Washington, D.C. So you're traveling. I actually got a chance to go to my alma mater, Florida A&M University, and do a podcast, a broadcast there. So there are a lot of opportunities throughout my time there where I was actually out in the field producing and putting segments together. I also spent time planning and doing futures. So you're working with a team of other senior producers and producers where you're saying, hey, what should we be doing on the HLN Morning Express show with Robin Mead, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. So you're looking ahead and you're seeing what news stories might be good to cover for our broadcast and planning ahead. You're booking celebrities ahead. You're booking other guests ahead. And so we did a lot of planning, and also senior producers also oversee, or help the executive producer oversee what's going on a day-to-day basis with the actual broadcast. The broadcast was on live 4 hours a day from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. live. So it was a lot of work. We had morning show hours where you're getting up at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, working on the show and putting that show together. So lots of different roles. I wore many different hats as a senior producer on that show during that time period.
Nice. Thank you so much for that breakdown of senior producer. It sounds like a very exciting role. So prior to that, you were producer for the Revolution Talk Show. That is in New York. So it seems like your career, kind of takes you from place to place.
Yes. So I had the opportunity, I will say, to travel and live in a lot of different cities as a producer, New York, Chicago, Atlanta for most of my career, and the, DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. Working on the Revolution Talk Show was very different. It was a 5-host show, so it was a multi-host show. All of the main producers, which I was one of them, were assigned a particular host. So everybody has a host that they're producing, and then they have a team. We each had smaller teams, and that team, whatever that host is, expertise is, they're working in their area. So if it was health, you're working on a lot of medical and health segments. If it's entertainment, working on entertainment segments. If it was fashion, you're working on fashion segments. The particular host that I was working with, it was mostly about fitness and weight loss. And we did a lot of transformations and things like that on the show. So I was working on a lot of segments that had to do with health and wellness and fitness and transformations. And it was a really good experience. It was a good experience being in New York. It was a good experience working on a multi-host, 5-host talk show, and just getting that experience. So I enjoyed that as well.
Yes. What would you say would be the, I guess, comparing and contrasting? I'm working on a show with one host and with many hosts. How would you compare and contrast like that experience?
First of all, working on a show with one host is a lot easier. It is a lot easier because all of your attention is just focused on that one host and making sure the show is on brand with the things that they want to do and the things that they want to get out to the audience. So that it's just a lot easier. So I would say working on a multi-host show definitely challenges you to think about how you can be creative, to make sure all of the pieces are working together, to make sure there's chemistry between all of them, to make sure all the segments are flowing and everything relates. So I would say it's good in that it challenges you and it pushes you to really think about, how am I going to make all the puzzle pieces fit with all of these hosts, as opposed to with one host, you're really just focused on that one host. Like when I worked for the Oprah Winfrey Show as an associate producer,
yes,
did that for 5 years in Chicago. You're working, first of all, for an iconic brand. And so you already know going in, I started there season 19 or 20, the Wildest Dream season, which was the car season.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I started there that season and worked there for 5 seasons. So when you're going to work for a show that already has an established brand, an established, icon at the helm, you kind of already know, like, okay, here's some of the stories that we're going to be doing. Here's, you kind of get to know her voice, even though you've already known it if you've watched the show for several years. But you also, you kind of just know, like, how we're going to produce the segment, how we're going to get this out to the audience, what kind of guests we're going to have on the show. We're very intentional about the stories that we did pitch there, but everything I would say for everything that I've worked for the Revolution, for CNN, for HLN, everything definitely when you pitch is about being on brand with that particular show, knowing the audience and knowing things that the audience may want to hear from that particular host.
Yes. Okay. I'm so glad that you brought that up because those are definitely things we want to learn more about. What tips could you give people for being on brand when they are interested in being on TV?
The biggest thing is to make sure that you know who and what you're pitching to. So if a particular person is pitching themselves or a product they have or, whatever business, whatever it is, they're pitching, their expertise. The important thing is to know who I'm pitching to and what is that show about. So the Today Show is a morning show. The Today Show, Good Morning America, Morning Express when it was on. CNN This Morning, all of these shows have different brands and they have different stories and segments that they're doing at different hours. So it's a good idea really just to study the shows, to watch the shows. What types of segments are they doing? Would I be a good fit for this particular network? Would I be a good fit for this particular show? That's the important thing to do, is really just to study and research and make sure you would be a good fit. Are you in line with or on brand with what that particular network is doing, what they're trying to put out? So, if you're trying to pitch yourself to the Today Show, it's going to be very different if you're trying to pitch yourself to NBC Nightly News. Two totally different stories, two totally different hosts, two totally different missions and messages that they're putting out. And some of the same stories will appear on those networks, but it may be in a different form. So you have to really think about, when you're doing this, what's the best place for my voice? Even with local news, in your home, in your local hometown, when you're watching your local news, you have to think, am I better to pitch myself for a local news morning show or a noon show or the 4 o'clock or the 5 o'clock hour or a late night show? And, does that show even have guests, So you have to think about all of those things when you're pitching. It's like,
I get that a lot.
Best place for me. Yes.
Yes, that's one thing I think people don't always consider when I ask people, like, what dream shows would you like to be on? As a publicist, I like to ask people, what are those things? And they'll name shows, and I'm thinking like there aren't guests on that show, right, or they're only celebrity guests on that show. Right, exactly. We have to think about things like that. Another thing that people come to me about, and they want to be on the news, they want to be on TV, talk about, a message, a product, a service, or they want to leverage themselves as an expert. Or they have news to share or a story. Let's say that news or a story. How do you explain what newsworthy is? How would you explain that to people, what newsworthy news is? Because, all of our stuff is a big deal to us, right? Yeah, but is it newsworthy? How would you help people decide if their news or their story is newsworthy? What should be in place?
So again, want to go back to thinking about not only is this the place for me, but is there a need for the particular audience to see the product that I have? Is there a need for this product? So if let's say you have a product, if you notice on the morning shows, there are a lot of segments like steals and deals and things like that. You may want to research and find out, how do I pitch myself to that entity to get myself on TV? Because there may be a need for some of those things, especially around holiday time. So I'm just giving an example of like a product, like a holiday time, like Christmas time or Valentine's, or, a time when, people are buying things, Father's Day, Mother's Day. So there may be an opportunity like that. So you think about it in terms of, would this have value around certain holidays or a news peg? So say something happens in the media, or say there's a big court case coming up and you're a lawyer or an attorney and you have legal expertise in a certain area. You may want to offer yourself up as a legal expert in a certain area to give analysis on a particular court case, a particular trial, a particular, whatever, something on the Supreme Court or whatever. So those are ways you got to think about, like, what's the peg, what's the hook where my expertise or my product or my business may have some value or some newsworthiness, to the audience. You may even have something, going on of a personal nature that you may want to get out. And if you feel like this is something that the audience may need to know about, pitch yourself or pitch the idea or pitch the story, and they will determine whether or not, if this is a good fit for our, for our network, or in particular, I get pitched a lot of things. And right now I'm in a space where I'm covering a lot of politics and a lot of legal segments. And so with a host who is an attorney. So a lot of things I get pitched are not always, on brand for what we may be doing, but I know other people and other shows that it might be a fit for. So sometimes I'll see something like, I have a really good friend who is a travel correspondent. She does a lot of segments traveling around the world. So she will continually pitch herself on travel segments. And I know my particular show, just because it's not our wheelhouse, we may not do that, but there are other shows on the network, and there are other, even on our streaming platforms, even on our network stream, that they may do this particular story. And so I'll forward it to another producer to be considered. So there's that.
Yes, thank you so much for that, because we love to hear about that on the Media Circus podcast as well. We're always looking for insights. So can you give us some do's and don'ts for pitching, pitching, I guess, news media, news shows?
So do's, my number one thing is always do your research. Always know who you're pitching to. Get to know, you can find out, and I would say LinkedIn would be your friend, who the producers are of various shows, and also who the bookers are. The bookers are the people, especially at the national level, on cable news and network news. The bookers are the ones who are actually putting people on TV, and they're the ones that are actually booking people. Of course, it's a collaborative team effort, where we sit around and we talk about different stories, and people pitch different ideas, and we say, oh, this might be good for the show. This might be good for the show. Everybody's chipping in, from the host to the producers, executive producer, everybody on the team, down to graphics PAs and, production. Everybody says, hey, this may be a good story idea. Let's discuss it. And so we have, meetings, pitch meetings, planning meetings, where we discuss story ideas that have come to us. So, definitely get to know those people. And when I say get to know them, I'm not like, taking anybody out to lunch or anything like that. I'm just saying, you can reach out to people on LinkedIn who are bookers or who are producers and say, hey, I might have a good idea, or I might have a pitch for you. Do you mind if I pitch you? 9 times out of 10, people are going to say yes and give you their, professional/work email. And then you can send them ideas and they can give you feedback on those ideas. So those are some things, just get to know who the key people are, and make sure you're researching and, on brand, if this might be a good fit for you.
Yes, thank you so much for that. And so we talked about LinkedIn being a really good source for finding media. And I know, like, back in the day, it was Twitter. Like Twitter, I'm dating myself. In like the 90s, whenever Twitter first came out, it was like the really big media kind of hangout spot. Still kind of is. But still, LinkedIn, I would say LinkedIn is definitely like that place to really find and make genuine connections with media and keep up with media, kind of in that space. So I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where I first found you. And then I ended up having a media list, and your contact information was on that as well. And I was like, I'm going to hit her up again. And so it seems like email was better for you than LinkedIn. Where do you take pitches, or what do you recommend for where people pitch?
Usually I get pitches, just like you said, through a media list. So, once your name is on that media list, people just email pitches all day long. And I would say that it's not always that the pitches are aligned with our show, because I will say this too. We as producers, we move around to different shows. Like since I've been at MSNBC, in the 3 years that I've been here at MSNBC, I've had 3 hosts. I've had 3 different hosts, 3 different shows. So, topics change, missions change. So sometimes I think people still pitch me things that may have been more aligned with hosts I had, 2.5 years ago. And they're just getting up to speed now on what I'm doing. So sometimes I would say, sometimes it is like a shot in the dark, with pitching. I wouldn't give up. You shouldn't give up also. But I would say once a particular, producer or booker says, this is just something we don't do, we probably will never do it, then you should definitely just, move on. I wouldn't harass them to the point of, like, you got to
Getting
put
blocked.
right. You got
Getting blocked.
to find another avenue exactly. You got to find another avenue that might just be a better fit. It's all about, is this the best fit? Is this the best fit for our audience? I mean, because we're thinking about also, there's so much that goes into producing a show and thinking about, is this a show that my host, is this a particular topic that my host is into or she's passionate about? And will our audience watch it? Is it something that our audience needs to know? Is it something that will benefit them, will transform their life? So all those things go into, booking a segment, booking a particular guest, and of that nature. And I would say, it's a good thing to have some clips of yourself already doing this, even if it's you at home, practicing, but having those clips and doing other media really helps, especially if you're pitching to a national news outlet, because national news outlets are wary about just putting anybody on TV as a legal expert or a guest. They really want to see, like, what has this person, what have they done already? What have they talked about? What are they out there pushing? Are they anywhere else that we can see? So, if you're putting together a press kit, it's important to have those links in there of other media that you might have done, even podcasts,
Yes.
where at least they can see, oh, this person can actually talk and they can hold a conversation back and forth with someone.
Yes, I am a huge supporter of media kits. Usually if I'm pitching media on behalf of a client, there's certain things that I know for a fact that they're going to ask for, that they're going to want to see. And all those things can easily be put together in a media kit. There's so many different ways to do a media kit now. Yeah. And back in the day, it was like a PDF.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. If you got really fancy, you printed it out and put it in like a nice folder and dropped it off, or you could fax it over. But now, pretty much any way that you can put together a collection, of pieces, of interviews, of photos, audio clips can be considered a media kit. So when someone pitches an idea, a story idea to you, and it might be feasible, what are like your next steps for that idea? I know that you have meetings that you kind of talk about it. I'm really curious to know how you vet the people. So say, you have an attorney who may want to come on and be an expert source. When you start the research, like, where do you start? What are you looking for? Are you on their social media,
yes,
on their page? Like, tell us what you guys look for.
So particularly for new guests, for someone new who's pitching us, we are checking their social media, checking their LinkedIn, and also checking for other things they may have done, other places they may have appeared. And even if they've even written, articles on a particular topic, or they've been published somewhere, have they done some podcasts, have they done, just where is this person? We'll check their website if they have one. So yes, we are doing, like, immediately when a guest gets pitched to us, especially if it may come from somebody on the team, hey, let's have blah, blah, blah on, or whoever. Usually I'll Google, like, the first thing I'll do is I'll Google and I'll see, like, where is this person? Where are they? And then we'll check their social media. And I will say there have been times when we checked social media of, a potential guest, and if things seem a little off with their social media, or maybe there's some, very negative, or very derogatory, or if the tone is, just not something that we want to be affiliated with, we would probably steer away from booking that particular guest, especially if it's not a topic that's kind of aligned with, what we're doing. But we try, we have to be careful with the brand and with our hosts, and we don't want to put them in some kind of crazy situation. So yes, we do research guests, and our bookers particularly take that task on, but all of us, are like Googling just to make sure. And the segment producers really take an even deeper dive when they start to working on the actual segment. So segment producers are the ones working on the segments, and they're doing an even deeper dive on the topic and the particular guest that we are trying to book, or that we may book. And so they may even find some things that may be interesting or alarming, or what have you.
Yes, yes. I tell so many of like my clients and my followers, when they say they're stuck about what to post on social media or they're not sure, I tell them like post with intention, because if you want to be in front of the media, the things that the media are going to be looking for when they're vetting you, and even potential clients and customers, they're going to be looking to see if you are practicing what you preach. Are you even preaching? What are you talking about? You're an expert in this topic. Do you talk about it? If you only post one time a week on social media, let that one time be some way to showcase your expertise or to tell your story, because when we think about it, we have an audience and then we have like onlookers. A lot of the times we just kind of have onlookers, but we need to be posting for our audience. So I'm so glad that you mentioned, that you talked about what you look for and things that could be potential red flags. When I tell people, you need to go back and look at your social media account and consider taking some things down if they're off brand and you just decided to try something new and it didn't really, hit. Even I've done some things before because they were trending or trendy, but it was off brand. And then, I didn't feel good about doing it. I wasn't sure about it. It didn't do well. And I'm like, I'm taking this down, because overall, the numbers and the algorithm is not really something that I am overly concerned about, but I know that people come to my social media and to my sites to vet me, as a person. So those are the kinds of posts that I try to focus on and think about. Either, sharing my expertise or sharing kind of my personality, so people can get to know and get a feel of like who I am as a person. So very important, especially when the media is checking you out. I definitely check the social media out because I'm like, is this someplace that I want to send a media person? Oh, you can check them out here on, Instagram, but the Instagram is not on brand, or there's some things that could be concerns. Like, I'm going to ask you to clean that up, before we start to work together.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's it.
Fantastic. So we're going to get back to your work a little bit. I'm going to go back to see when you were a producer at CNN in Atlanta, and you were a freelance producer and writer for some of the shows. Now, we talk here on the Media Circus podcast about the difference between like freelance journalists and also, journalists that are like full-time, kind of employed. So could you talk about a little bit about like freelance and then like being in a news network, like as an employee? Can you help explain that?
Sure. So at the beginning of my career, I worked in local news as a producer for about 8 to 10 years, somewhere in that range. And then local news, then to CNN, then to Harpo Productions / Oprah Winfrey Show. And then after I left the Oprah Winfrey Show, I took a job with BET as a freelancer. So basically what that meant was that they were hiring me on a contractual basis, but not as a full-time employee, just on a contractual basis. So I was hired to help with the launch of the Monique Show, and which was a late night talk show around 2009, 2010, 2011. And it was based out of Atlanta. So moved it back. I was in Chicago at the time, moved from Chicago back to Atlanta. I had been living there before, moved back to Atlanta to help, launch this new show. And I was hired as a freelance or contract worker. And basically you sign a contract for a certain period of time. So on a show like the Monique Show, which is, a BET show, they're going to say, we're going to produce so many episodes a year and we'll need workers from like 9 to 10 months. So not the whole year. So you basically signing a contract that you're going to work for 9 months on this particular show. And pretty much everybody on the show is freelance and signing contracts. And so that's basically how that works. It's a contractual agreement, basically to do work for a show, but it's not, like you're paying for your own health benefits. You're paying for, you're making sure you're paying for your taxes and doing all those things that you need to do to stay, above board. So, it is a little different as a freelance. It's like being an entrepreneur, really, almost.
Yes.
Because
Yes. That's
when
how
you
I
get-
explain it to my
yeah,
audience.
exactly. It's like being an entrepreneur because it's contract work. So you're contracted to do work like you would if you were an entrepreneur and you're contracted to do work for, paint somebody's house or whatever. It's contract. You go, you do your job, you get paid. So that's basically, and it's for a period of time. It's for a period of time. So the same thing with Revolution in New York for ABC. That was a syndicated show, syndicated across the country to ABC networks. But again, I had a contract. So that contract was I think it was for a year. That contract may have been for a year, but there were some contingencies in the contract that you could negotiate in. You should always negotiate with these contracts, like especially when you're working on these shows that could end suddenly or get canceled. So, the good thing is with this particular contract, this show did end suddenly. I think we started working on the show like in the fall and like on an August, September type date. And then the show got canceled the following April. But my contract was so that I would, we had to do so many more shows and then I would still get paid a certain amount of months before it would run out. And this was something that, I worked into the contract upon negotiation just to make sure, if something happens, hey, I have a little cushion, and then I have time to look for another opportunity. And I did. I found another freelance opportunity, very soon after that one. So then that would be my third freelance gig, within about a 3-4 year period.
Yes. Sounds entrepreneurial.
It's very entrepreneurial. It was my third. Yeah. There's like these little breaks in between.
Yes.
So you're like making sure you're saving your money and doing everything you can, in between these times and still, paying your health insurance and all those other things. And so then I started freelancing again for CNN. Now, the first time I was with CNN, I was a regular full-time employee. But the after I left the Revolution in New York, I actually was going back and forth from New York to Atlanta, and I was freelancing on the CNN and the HLN side. And I did that probably for about 6 months, and then they offered me a full-time role. And so I moved back to Atlanta again, and then I was full-time on HLN Morning Express with Robin Mead, just regular employee, and was out of freelance world. So I've been out of freelance world for a while now. I've just been full-time employee. I was full-time employee all that time with HLN and then full-time with MSNBC.
Nice. Yes. Again, like I said at the beginning, very robust career.
Yes. I'm thankful that I had that experience.
Yes. Yes. You've
freelance it's not for the faint of heart.
It's not. If you can make it like that, like you can make it anywhere.
It's not, you are hustling. You are
hustling. Yes. So many things to talk about. We still have some things to talk about. When we come back from our quick little break, we're going to talk about your stint as a producer for the Monique television show, and then also your time with Harpo Productions for the Oprah Winfrey show. So we're just going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and talk about that. Then we're going to dive into like how you got your start. We want to hear about school, your experiences, if you had any kind of internships, and what things you're interested in now. So we're going to go to our quick little break and then we'll be right back.
Looking to show some love for the Media Circus podcast with Taiisha Bradley, celebrity publicist? Here's how. Hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all the latest episodes. Leave a review and share your media wins for a chance to be featured on the show. And by subscribing to Media Circus publicity leads on Patreon, you can support the podcast and get instant access to publicity opportunities for TV, magazines, major blogs, podcasts, and even red carpet events. So what are you waiting for? Show your support for Taiisha Bradley and the Media Circus podcast today.
Yes, and we're back. Come through a little commercial. Thank you so much. And we've talked about lots of in your career. We still have a little bit more that we're going to talk about. So anybody who doesn't know, I am actually, and I was going to screen share this, but listen, the conversation got so good. I am actually referring to Denise's LinkedIn, which is so robust. Well, listen, I tell you, I love LinkedIn. I love it. And so I'm just kind of going down your profile on LinkedIn. And so far right now, we're at the producer for the Monique Show, where you were at BET for 2 years from 2009 to 2011. We know Monique is trending. We are talking about you and your experience working on a late night talk show. It seems like this is a little bit different from what you're kind of doing now. But we love talk shows and night shows and day shows here. So we're very excited just to kind of learn about what that was like. And if you could give us some like insider information on, getting on to being a guest or, just being in the realm of talk shows.
So, late night talk is very different from daytime talk and from news, and it's just different. It is. I actually had a great time working on the show. I loved working on the show. It was so much fun. We had the people that I worked with. I'm still close to and friends with a lot of the people I worked with on the Monique Show for BET in Atlanta. A lot of people came from BET in New York and LA and other places to work on the show. But we had a really good time working on that show. The show, I will say this, was celebrity driven.
Yes.
It was celebrity. We had musical guests on pretty much every show we taped from all different genres. Some newer, some people when they were just starting up. And then we had a lot of comedians on, Monique's comedian. So a lot of her comedian friends, Steve Harvey, Kevin Hart, so on, Martin Lawrence, so on and so forth. So the show was celebrity driven. Every now and then, if there was a really good, unique story, and usually it wasn't, we were getting pitched things here and there, but a lot of times I would say we were finding interesting stories.
Yes.
Just by, reading the paper, perusing local news, internet sites, whatever. We were finding a lot of interesting stories ourselves. So every now and then we would have some, a really interesting story about maybe some kid who, could play 5 instruments. I don't know. I'm just making something up. I can't remember everything, but it was very rare that we just had, like, I would say, regular people on the show. I would say the majority of the guests were celebrity guests. And then every now and then we would have that really unique story on maybe about an up-and-coming comedian or up-and-coming musical artist or, something of that nature. But for the most part, for those who watch late night television, if you watch late night TV, you can see what kind of guests get on. It's mostly celebrities. And then every now and then, there's maybe some really unique author or somebody, does something else that warrants them, being on a late night talk show. But it is not like something that where you're pushing products or, business or any kind of expertise in late night. It's very light and, celebrity driven.
Yes. So we were talking about that a little bit before, to where, I'll ask people, what kind of show do you want to be on? Where do you see yourself? And they'll say something like that, which is celebrity driven.
Yeah.
And so if you are a celebrity, because I do have clients that are, somewhat celebrity public figures, do you find that they're mostly like A-list celebrities that are on the talk shows, or is it, different level of celebrities just depending on what kind of projects or news they have going on?
Yeah, it's different levels. I think we did all kinds. A-list, B-list, C-list, whatever you want to call it. Right. Because really it's driven around what they want to come on and talk about. They have a tour coming up. If they got a book they're pushing, a new TV show, a movie, their own documentary projects, whatever. So, a lot of times celebrities are booked around what they're trying to push or promote at the
Mm-hmm.
time, whether it be a film or, music or, what have you. But a lot of times it's, that's what it is. So if they have something that they want to promote, it's not that they want to get out. That's the time to do the buzz. That's the time to do the media buzz. And, you all can see, how these press runs go. They're getting more creative and more unique with it. But, the Color Purple press run was a good example where you saw, Taraji and, Daniel Brooks and Fantasia everywhere, on the
Yes.
morning talk shows, on red carpets, doing interviews, podcast interviews, one-on-ones, all over the place, late night. So those are the kinds of, huge press runs. They have a massive film they want to promote, they want to get out there. And so that's the time that they're going to be, getting booked on these late night talk shows. And something like that is going to be all over the place. Late night, daytime, morning, even shows like our show is trying to get, a
Yes.
really big artist like that to promote those things. So that's really how that goes,
Yes, yes. I love a good press run. Like
Mhm.
they're probably one of my most favorite parts of PR is to put together a press run,
Yes.
especially when it's like over just a couple of days and, you're kind of jetting from place to place.
Knock it out.
The pressure is on to get from one place to,
Yes,
to the next.
we're doing the Today Show. We're doing Good Morning America. We're doing The View.
Yes.
Then we're doing local news hits here and there. And then we get a pre-tape interview, with Stephen Colbert or Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel or whatever. Yeah, you're all over the place.
Yes, all over the place. No sleep. Just go, 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 go.
Yeah.
Do you recommend that people who maybe are not celebrities, say an author per se, set up a press run for themselves or have a publicist to do a press run? Do you see people do that now? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I mean, you saw Tabitha Brown just did one. She just did a press run, book tour.
Well, she's A-list celebrity now, so
yeah.
But like an everyday entrepreneur, could look at putting together a press run for themselves, don't you think?
They really could.
Yes, everything is so accessible now. Everything is so accessible.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People, don't have to think always about linear television. They don't always have to think about pitching themselves. There's so many places to get yourself out there. There's, if you should be on every social media platform pushing your, Instagram Live, YouTube, Facebook streaming, wherever, X, if you want to do that, Threads. And then, if you're trying to get on TV, then, you got to think also about streaming platforms too. Every network has a streaming platform. And so there are opportunities on the streaming platforms for the major networks to, they have all kinds of segments that they're doing. So you pitch yourself to a streaming network, which these streaming networks have huge audiences. The audience are just growing and growing because people are, streaming their news, from their phones or from their tablets or from their laptops. And so there are huge opportunities, I mean, the shows are great, but there are other ways that people can get the word out about, their book or whatever it is. I mean, I've listened to podcasts where, different hosts have mentioned like books in the middle of like an interview, or they've had different authors on to talk about their books. And I've gone out and gotten the books, never seeing them on TV. I mean, they may have been on TV somewhere, but, you just never know where someone is going to hear about your book or about your product or about whatever. So it's good, I think, to look at all the many places, especially now in this, kind of digital era that we're in now, that you can really get a name out there for yourself. Include, social media as a way to get your name out there too, along with, pitching to linear and streaming services as well.
Yes, and they have so many like internet TV shows now. All the different stations, the different networks that that you can get out to. So I would say TV is a lot more accessible than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30
Mhm.
years ago.
Mhm.
That is definitely for sure. And it's definitely one of the most, powerful mediums,
Oh
the
yeah.
way that most people kind of get their news and get their entertainment is being on screen. So with that, do you foresee any kind of like new trends or things that may be changing the media scape from the media's perspective side?
As far as pitching is concerned, or
As far as just media in general, like right now, like AI in media, you have these
Mm,
AI news networks that
mhm.
are wrong information,
Yeah,
kind of often. So I see that happening.
yeah.
Do you see any kind of trends in the media scape that, could be changing the way media is?
Well, I definitely think, as you talk about AI, it is definitely something that we are all keeping our eye on, to see, how it can be used for good and not for, the scary part of AI, which really would be on the disinformation side. And so I
Yes.
think, we're moving into this area where all platforms, all the multi cross platform, you know, um, I guess you could say jugular or even circus of media is looking at, how do we, get a hold of technology before it really gets a hold of us. So,
Mhm.
yeah, AI is definitely one of those things that we have to keep an eye on. And, I just feel like things are changing and moving so fast, with all aspects of television, to the point of, really, and it's really being dictated by viewer habits. It's really being dictated by viewer habits because people don't, let's say 15, 20 years ago, almost everyone, well, let's say this, a lot of people had cable. A lot of people had cable. And even 20 years ago, a lot of people had landlines. Now, most people don't have cable. They stream everything.
Right. Hmm.
And, they don't have landlines. So,
Don't know how
most
to use a telephone anymore.
they don't even know how to use a telephone. Exactly. I mean, people are really getting most of their information on a daily basis from their phone or tablet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not like it used to be. So we always have to keep that in mind and think about how we are changing as well too, as far as just giving people, the information that they want,
Mhm.
in a more concise form, but really we're giving them the truthful, concise information, but not dragging things out. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
People like
So
things.
maybe short form video is big now.
Exactly.
Yes, because I love
Exactly.
good YouTube shorts. And then, everyone is with the TikTok scroll, all
Yeah.
these short
TikTok.
blips of information, of
Yeah.
news.
And you can
Um,
see how even when people start, like how long people are going to stay. You have to catch them in the beginning. Like you got to get that hook, even with the YouTube shorts and, the YouTube shorts, Instagram, everything that's like really quick. You have to catch them quick because if
mhm.
you waste too much time, like in the beginning with like a long intro or a long setup or a long,
Right.
you're going to lose people. They want to know, what is she on here talking about? What is he on here talking about? What are they talking about? What are they doing?
Mhm.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I consciously, scroll sometimes and, I'm just scrolling past, and then I'll stop and I'll watch something. And then I'm like, all right, what about that made me stop and take the
Right.
time to watch it
Exactly.
completely? Even if I feel like I need to reclaim my time back for what I
Reclaiming
watched.
my time. Yeah.
What was it about this that made me stop and freely give up my time
Exactly. And
initially
there's,
and think about how to employ that?
exactly. There's a lot of, and I would say people have done a lot of good of being very entertaining and very funny and very, capturing some very interesting, funny, light moments. And there's also some very serious stuff, out there too that also grabs our attention right away. I think headlines, grab people's attention. And that's another thing with your pitches, just bringing this all back is that when you're pitching, like that subject line, what's in that subject line, and then like the first couple of points is like so important to craft that and really be intentional about it because it'll make or break whether or not we're going to read through and say, oh, this would this be a good fit for us, or maybe it's not a good fit for us, but it may be a good fit for somebody else. Like, I love to travel. And so travel pitches always catch my attention, even though it's probably not something we're going to do. They always catch my attention. Like
right.
3 ways to, save money flying to Paris or whatever, cheap
Right.
flights.
We're going to check that out just in case we need to fly to Paris.
Exactly. I'm checking out whatever. So those types of things, I think, are, your headline, even for yourself, are good. I say some of the best pitches that I've gotten are people who, for our particular, for what we do, publicists who really stay, in the news and really stay on top of what's going on, and like they're on it, like they can set up and they will send us an expert, like on the, on somebody's, like Trump's verdict in the New York AG's case. They will pitch a guest right after the verdict, like within 10 to 15 minutes. It's like they've already, hey, I've got this attorney who could talk about this, that, and the other. Here's where their articles have been. It's like they've got it like somewhere hidden on deck.
Already ready. Yeah.
They're like, here's a guest you can book right now.
It's about those angles. Yeah. Of being already having these angles together. Exactly. Yes, that's the favorite, be like, hey, I have this person who can speak about this, and even better if I already have like their points out, so then we don't have to do all this back and forth. Like, these are the things that they can talk about, or these are the 3 ways, that they feel about this, or to have that person have a somewhat of a controversial opinion, maybe something that's the kind of the polar opposite of what everyone else's initial reaction is, and to speak about why. So a lot is about being ready. I guess they call that news jacking, but I don't know. It's not necessarily news jacking in my opinion. It's just kind of being ready for that. A lot of what I love to do with PR is that I have media, like journalists, reporters, who will reach out to me, in the event of something happening. So if they know that I have connections or a client who is in a certain industry, they'll call and say, hey, do you have someone who can speak about this? Do you have someone who can speak about that? And then, those relationships can get proactive, like that on the ready. You'd be like, hey, this verdict comes down, I have, this attorney who can talk about it. And so I feel like those are like very, the easiest ways to become a source to the media, to actually earn some publicity in media in that time, is being helpful to the media, being a source. I feel like so many people go into it in a self-serving kind of way. I want to be on TV. I want to, tell my story. I want to sell this product or service. And, get in line. Everyone does. Like me too. Right, but news is media. It's a business. There's an end product, and you have to be helpful and be a source. How is this helping everyone and not just you?
How is it helping
and I feel like being a source to the media is like one of the easiest ways to kind of get in there, and then you're top of mind as well. I just feel like so many more opportunities come that way. When people come into publicity. So I'm like, I understand you're an author and you have this book and everything, but listen, this is the way that we need to step into this door. We're going to set you up as an expert, as a source for the media that also has a book. And when the time is right and the opportunity presents itself, mention the book, right? But we're not going to go in book forward.
We're always thinking about, even when I'm putting a show together, I'm thinking about the audience. I'm thinking about the audience. And so I feel like anybody trying to push something should be thinking about their audience. What do people want? How can I be of service to others? Why do I, yes, you want to share your book, you want to share your expertise, you want to share, whatever it is, but, why, what's the intention? What's the motive behind it? And how ultimately, just being a, person of faith, a Christian, just like, how can I be of service to others? I think when you think about how can I be of service to others with your product, that's how your product grows. That's how your product grows. That's how your business grows. When you take the focus off of you and put it on, who you're serving and how they can get some good out of it, or whatever you're trying for them to get out of it, then I think that, helps, with what you're attracting, wherever you want to be.
Yes. Awesome. I know we've talked about authors a few times, and listen, I've had a lot of inquiries from authors lately. I guess it's that time of year. But your time as associate producer, field producer for the Oprah Winfrey Show, one of the things that you worked on, and that was Oprah's book club. Do you have any kind of tips? So we were talking about that a little bit for like authors who would like to have their books as a part of a book club.
To be honest with you, I got to be honest with you on that. It's one of those things where, you just have a team of, when I tell you, like, we used to have stacks of books that were pitched to us from all over, it was crazy. And the book club team, we would actually read through tons of books, and then we would, suggest, hey, this might be a good book to pick. This might be a good book. And it really was like whatever she was feeling. I can't even, it's a crapshoot. It is. It's right. That's like a shot in the dark, It's a shot in the dark. I mean, nowadays there's so many book clubs nowadays, different TV shows have book clubs. I mean, it might just be, maybe you look back and see some of the other books that they've selected and see if yours is kind of in line with those. But I think that's just real subjective. Like,
yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I struggle the most with like author clients, because I'm like, where they say that, oh, there's all these different brands of bread, but everyone sure survives, and these days, everyone has a book. And there's just so many books. I feel that, that's why the author should leverage themselves, as an expert. What is the book about? You can be an expert in that. Or what other kind of publicity or marketing or anything else surrounding the book or do you have that will make you stand out? Amongst the pile of books,
because there's so many. There's so
many.
And I mean, just to be honest, a lot of it is that if it's a brand new author, it's really hard if they don't have like the machine behind them already. Like you said, Tabitha Brown, she's already an established, figure. And so, Joy Reid has a new book out right now, who's one of our MSNBC anchors, about Medgar Murley Evers. And, but she's published other books before. She's, has a TV show. So, she's been on the air for several years now. So there's a different kind of machine and momentum behind it. Marketing momentum. I mean, people are still out there though, setting up these, one-on-one book tours. And that's another good way to get buzz before you get on TV, is to, do your tours at these, at bookstores, or have different Q&As and events. And, and then people might see, bookers, or, hey, this book is, somebody's out here really getting a lot of traction and a lot of support out here doing their own marketing and promotion. Let's check out this book. Let's see what it's about. Maybe it's something, we may want to profile on our show. I don't know, things like that. So books are hard. And I think that, for somebody who doesn't have the backing, or they're not already celebrity, or, you have to do your grinding for your book, you got to do it on your own. You got to get out there, or they hire somebody like you to help, push it to the point that it may catch the attention of a media outlet.
Yes. Thank you so much. We have gone down your LinkedIn resume throughout this show, but what we didn't talk about is how you got your start. Can you give us a little bit of background about like what interests you in Journey, and about like your educational experience?
Sure. So I am a graduate of Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida. It's a historically Black college and university. It is, I graduated from FAMU. My father graduated from FAMU. My mom also went to HBCU. So that was definitely in my blood, in my family. And I just always, in high school, I just loved English. I loved writing. And I was the host of we had like a closed circuit television station that did like the morning announcements at school. And I did that for like 3 years straight. Like,
Oh, wow.
so I was already like really, just like, I'm going to be a journalist. I knew it in high school. I was either going to be a writer or a journalist, write books or journalist. And when I was in college, I did an intern. I worked at a newspaper part-time my freshman year of college while I was in school. Then did internships at 2 television stations and a radio station. One of the internships was hosted or was sponsored by the National Association of Black Journalists, which I'm still a member of today. And that particular internship was where I learned about producing. And, before I was like, I'm going to be like an anchor reporter type. But on that particular internship, I really learned how to be a producer, what it entails to be a producer. And I really just fell in love with it. And I was like, all the behind the scenes decision making about what stories are going into the show, what order they will appear in the show, and the different elements that go into, making that show really great. And plus I feel like there's always a need for Black people and other people of color to be behind the scenes, making these very crucial editorial decisions about what people see on TV.
Absolutely.
And making decisions about guests, and about bookings. I am very conscious of, my host is Asian American, but I have a very diverse team. But also, I want the guests on our show to be represented, different faiths, different people of color, different backgrounds. I want to make sure people see, a Black attorney, a Black male attorney with loads of experience, a Black female attorney, an Indian expert in whatever, an Asian expert in whatever. So, it's very important to have these behind the scenes, diverse decision makers, because that is how we, that is how we grow. That is how we grow our audience. And that is how we, change and fight some of these stereotypes that are so prevalent in our society about all different types of people. And so really, really conscious and really thankful that, that God has given me basically, this opportunity to be a producer and to have stayed in the business for 30 years, basically, and to have had these different experiences from local news to national news to cable news to national cable news to late night talk and then daytime talk and I'm so very thankful and grateful for the opportunity that I've had to shape stories and actually to greenlight stories that may not have, gotten a place anywhere else. I mean, one thing I will say about the Monique Show, it was only on for 2 years, but I feel like we booked a lot of guests on that show, celebrities, B-list, C-list, A-list, whatever, that may not have gotten an opportunity on a mainstream late night talk show. There were a lot of celebrities we booked that you might not see. And even, on some of the shows that I've worked on here, on the Cross Connection with Tiffany Cross, the Saturday and Sunday show with Jonathan Capehart, and now the Katie Fang show. So I've had a Black female host, Black male host, and now an Asian American host. I've had the opportunity, to elevate the conversation, along with the team, and to educate our audience about different stories that may not get play anywhere else because, this person is Asian or this person is Native American. A lot of indigenous stories we did on the Cross Connection, and guests that we booked, voices that we booked, that I'm so proud of, some of the work that we did. And I just think it's very important because, you see things through the lens of your experience and taking that mantle and sharing that with other people of all backgrounds and all races and all, different whatevers. I just think it's so, so important. So basically, just going back really quickly, that is when I decided I'm going to be a producer. When I found out that they had the power to this is what we doing. We making these kind of decisions about what people are going to see on TV. Okay. I'm doing this. And so then I was focused on that for the rest of my college career. And then, started in TV, shortly thereafter. And, just again, with the hustle and risk taking and, really just having the faith and believing in myself that, no matter what I did, those different jumps from local news to national to CNN and then to the Oprah show, which was totally different. And then going to late night talk and then going to another daytime talk in New York, Chicago. And I'm really thankful. I'm thankful.
Yes.
Thankful to still be in the business, thankful to still be here telling stories, the very important stories. And, thankful that I can talk to people like you and share those experiences and hope that people will learn something and, be able to know that, when, you have something and you want to get it out there and you want to be of service to others, that is how you can, you can get your name out there, your product, business, whatever it is you're trying to do. And again, we talked about this earlier about being intentional.
Yes.
About what you're doing and how you're going about it, having some integrity about it as well.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for everything that you have just done, in your career. It's just phenomenal. I know that you participate in mentorship a lot. You're a mentor and you're bringing up like the next generation of communicators. I feel like whether you're on the media side or the PR side, I would say most people that I talk to that are in communications is purpose work for them. You know, it's purpose. It feels purpose work, and it sounds like it is for you as well. So thank you for that. My last question, I love to ask everyone this before we wrap up, is that if you yourself could be featured anywhere in the media, where would that be? It could be in a magazine, on a TV show, on a news show. You are the featured guest. Where would that be?
Oh my God, that is wild. Where would that be? You know what? Essence Magazine.
That would be mine too.
I would say, and I had like a little blurb in Essence Magazine mixed in with another friend's article when I adopted my son. It was almost 8 years ago now. So I had a little blurb in there, but yes, Essence Magazine would be wonderful. That would be fantastic.
That would be fantastic. And then what would you want your story to be about? Would it be about your son or your whole career, or what would your story be about?
It would be about
feature.
You know what it would be about? It would be about faith, family, and career. That's what it would be.
Faith, family, and career, everything.
Faith, family, and career. Yes.
I love that. Listen up, Essence Magazine.
Yes.
We need a double truck feature for Denise Hendricks.
Yes. Faith, family, and career. And
faith, family, and career.
Out there, taking risk, and believing God is going to show up in all areas, of my life, so that, in the end, he gets the glory for all of this. So you're right. It is purpose work. It is purpose work. And hopefully people will be touched and changed and transformed by, some of the things that I've done over the past 30 years in this business. I'm very thankful for this. I don't take what I do for granted or lightly, because, it's a coveted position to be in. So I'm thankful.
It is. Well, we are thankful for you, for all that you have done and that you continue to do. And we thank you so much for being on the greatest podcast on earth, the Media Circus podcast with Taiisha Bradley, celebrity publicist. So we are going to sign off, and you can check the show notes to see how you can connect with Denise Hendricks. So thank you so much again for being on the show, and thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
Let's go! This is the Media Circus with your host Taiisha Bradley. Got virtual and live events to browse, pitch, and repeat so gladly. And she got that online subscription for publicity leads. One thing that's safe to say is she got what you need. This is the Media Circus. The Media Circus.